I can't believe I am even writing this, but my Mill just tried to do something to me. Last week, my mother-in-law threw a birthday party for herself. Over the years, she always goes all out for her birthdays. Every year, it's a grand affair, and this year was no exception. She decided to have a cowboy-themed party, complete with all the bells and whistles. Everyone attending was required to dress up in full cowboy attire, think boots, hats, and flannel shirts. It wasn't just a casual get-together, she really expected everyone to show up and join in with enthusiasm. Now, I'm currently pregnant with my first baby, and it hasn't been the easiest journey so far. I've been feeling completely exhausted, partly because I've been struggling with anemia during the pregnancy. This means I have to be really careful about how much I exert myself. I try to avoid unnecessary stress, and to be honest, I've skipped quite a few social gatherings lately to prioritize my health. Going to parties or events just feels like a lot right now, especially since I need to rest more than usual. A few days before the party, my Mill called my husband and made a big deal about how I absolutely had to be there. She put so much pressure on him, saying that my presence was mandatory and that I couldn't just skip this event with excuses like I had for other family occasions. She made it clear that she expected me to show up, no matter how tired I was. So, even though I didn't feel up to it, I felt like I had no choice but to attend, just to keep the peace. It was either that, or deal with even more stress from her taunting me about my absence later. On the day of her birthday party, before we left, I made it clear to my husband, Nate, that if I started feeling unwell or uncomfortable at any point, I wasn't going to stick around. I told him I would head straight back home if things got too overwhelming. He seemed to understand and completely agreed, even promising that if I wanted to leave, he would come back with me. That gave me some reassurance for the event. Later, when we arrived at the venue, we were immediately greeted by several family members. As is often the case when you're pregnant, people started gravitating towards me, touching my belly and talking to it in those babyish, overly sweet voices, as if the baby could somehow hear and respond. They buzzed around me, showering me with congratulations about becoming a mother soon, which was kind, but also a bit overwhelming. Meanwhile, my Mill just smiled at me briefly, hugged my husband, and then walked off to join her friends. She didn't say much to me at all, just seemed eager to get back to her guests and enjoy the festivities she had planned. I could tell she was in full party host mode, mingling and soaking up the attention from everyone there. Throughout the first half of the party, several family members and guests were constantly coming up to me to either talk to me about the pregnancy or give me various advice about becoming a first-time parent. I quietly tried to excuse myself from the crowd so I could get a break. When I finally found a quiet spot to sit down, I was grateful to be able to catch my breath. Thankfully, my husband's cousin Robin came over to keep me company. Robin and I have always had a good relationship. She and my husband were very close growing up, so naturally, we became friends after I married into the family. She's one of the few people who really gets me, and she knows how much I've been avoiding social events lately, especially now that I'm pregnant. As she sat down beside me, she immediately cracked a joke, saying how surprised she was to actually see me at the party, considering how I've been staying home more often. She teased that if I hadn't shown up, Mill would have definitely given her and my husband an earful for letting me get away with it. We both laughed at that because we knew it was true. My Mill isn't shy about voicing her disappointment when things don't go the way she expects, and she would have had a lot to say if I had skipped her birthday party. As we continued chatting, catching up about life and the pregnancy, my Mill suddenly came over. She didn't sit down or join in the conversation. She just looked me up and down and then, without any hesitation, told me how different I looked since the last time she saw me. The way she said it caught me a little off guard, and for a second, I wasn't sure how to respond. For context, even though my Mill lives in the same city as us, she rarely visits us at our home. It's not like she's far away, but for some reason, she just doesn't seem to enjoy coming over. My husband and I used to go and visit her pretty regularly, almost every other weekend, but ever since I got pregnant, I've had to cut back on those visits because it's just been too exhausting. I thought it would have been nice if Mill had come to visit me instead, especially with everything I've been going through, but she never did. It had probably been about 2 or 3 months since she'd last seen me in person. So, it's natural that I would have changed. Pregnancy has been taking its toll, and of course, I look different now than I did a few months ago. Still, the way she pointed it out felt a bit off. Mill then followed up by bluntly saying I looked so much fatter than ever. I felt an immediate rush of embarrassment. I tried to play it off with an awkward laugh, but inside, I felt uncomfortable and self-conscious. Thankfully, Robin quickly came to my defense. She gestured towards my growing belly and firmly reminded Mill that, of course, I was going to gain weight. I was pregnant, after all. However, Mill didn't seem fazed. In fact, she scoffed, almost dismissively, and replied with a bit of smugness that she never put on any weight when she was pregnant with my husband. As if that wasn't enough, she went on to comment about how lethargic I looked for just sitting around during her party without mingling with the guests, adding that when she was pregnant, she had been incredibly active and full of energy. Her comparison felt like a direct dig at me, like she was implying I wasn't handling pregnancy as well as she had. I couldn't just sit there quietly anymore. I pushed back, pointing out that there were clear differences between her situation and mine. She had my husband when she got accidentally pregnant after high school and had given up college to become a full-time mother, so she was quite young, whereas I'm in my late mid-30s with existing health issues, so therefore, pregnancy is going to affect me differently. It's only natural that my body needs more rest given the circumstances. The moment I pointed out the differences, I could tell she didn't take it well. Her face turned red, clearly offended by my response. It was as if I had crossed a line by reminding her about her past. Sensing the tension rising, Robin quickly tried to steer the conversation away in a different direction. She complimented Mill on how fantastic her party was, pointing out the decorations, the theme, and the effort that went into organizing everything. That seemed to do the trick because Mill immediately latched onto the opportunity to talk about herself. She started praising her own party, going on a bit of a rant about how she had come up with such an original idea about the theme of her party all on her own and how grateful she was to her friends for helping put it together. After that, she drifted off to mingle with her other friends, leaving me relieved that the awkward conversation had seemingly been forgotten. When it came time for the cake cutting, my husband took charge of bringing out the cake for Mill. He carefully placed the candles on top, and we all gathered around to sing for her. Mill, of course, beamed with pride, soaking up the attention. My husband and father-in-law then asked me to come stand with them near Mill for pictures and videos. I wasn't too keen on it, mostly because I was already feeling drained, but I obliged because they seemed insistent. As I moved to stand beside Mill for the photos, people began to crowd around, complimenting us both. They made comments like, "Oh, you two look so beautiful together. And you could be sisters." Some even chimed in with, "We can't wait for the baby to arrive. It's going to be so exciting," and joked how Mill is going to be a grandma very soon. Hearing this, I could see Mill's expression shift ever so slightly. There was a flicker of irritation in her eyes. The sister comparison, while well-meaning from the guests, seemed to hit a nerve with her. It was as if the spotlight, which she clearly wanted to be solely on her, was now being divided, and that wasn't something she appreciated. She remained polite, smiling for the cameras, but I could feel the tension building, and honestly, I just wanted the whole photo session to be over. I didn't want to steal any of her thunder, especially on her big day. Later, during lunch, I was about to finish my meal when I got surrounded by some of Mill's friends in the kitchen. Her friends started talking about how my skin was glowing due to the pregnancy and how Mill looked exactly like me back then. I smiled and nodded politely, not really engaging but doing my best to stay respectful. Then, out of nowhere, Mill interrupted their conversation. With a dismissive tone, she shot down their compliments by saying she looked nothing like me when she was pregnant. She emphasized and pointed out how I had fat arms and ridiculous-looking calves because of my pregnancy, which she claimed was never the case for her. Her words stung, and I could feel the heat rising to my face, as I tried to keep my composure. However, her friends started to tease her by reminding her of how she had actually put on weight and how she had lost so much hair during her pregnancy that she was almost bald at one point. They even joked about her arms being shaggy, recalling memories from those days. I could see Mill's expression shift from smug satisfaction to barely concealed anger. The tables had turned on her. Mill sat there, visibly fuming, as her friends continued reminiscing about her pregnancy. They'd known her since college, so they had first-hand knowledge of how she looked back then, and they weren't holding back. I realized that while Mill had been doing her hardest to embarrass me, to make me feel insecure in front of her friends, she'd ended up being the one embarrassed by the very people who knew her best. They weren't being mean, but their honest memories were enough to undercut Mill's attempt to humiliate me. It was a small, unexpected victory for me, so I just kept quiet and let her stew in the awkwardness of the moment. Later, I politely excused myself from the group, saying I urgently needed to use the restroom, hoping that now they would leave me alone. However, when I emerged from the bathroom, I was surprised to find my mother-in-law waiting for me. She asked if I wasn't feeling well, and I, not wanting to escalate anything, simply told her the lunch had been a bit too heavy for me. That's when she scoffed, almost as if she'd been waiting for an opportunity to pounce. Without missing a beat, she said maybe I should just go back home if I wasn't feeling well. Her tone wasn't kind or concerned, it was dismissive, like she was trying to push me out of the party. I was caught off guard by how direct she was being, but I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of thinking she could just send me packing. So, I calmly told her that I was feeling just fine and that I could stay for a while longer. She then doubled down and told me there was no need for me to stress myself out by staying even a minute longer. She even offered to call me an Uber, as if she couldn't wait to get me out of there. I politely declined again, telling her my husband would drive me home when it was time to leave. But she argued that her son needed to be at her birthday party, that his presence was important, but that my presence was not required any longer. The way she said it made it clear that she thought I was somehow intruding on her special day, even though she had been the one to insist on my attendance in the first place. As she kept repeating that I could just leave, I started getting irritated. So, I finally asked her outright why she suddenly wanted me to leave so badly. That's when she dropped the facade. She told me exactly what I had suspected, that I was stealing the spotlight from her birthday with my pregnant belly. According to her, all anyone could talk about at the party was the baby, when this was supposed to be her day. She made it clear that she had only wanted me here so that people don't question her about my absence, but now that I had shown my face to everyone, she felt that the right thing for me to do now would be to leave so she could enjoy the rest of her party without feeling like I was taking away the attention she deserved. Her words stung. I hadn't come to her party to take anything away from her, but now she was making me feel like my pregnancy was somehow an offense, as if my very presence was ruining her day. It was frustrating and hurtful to hear her say those things. Now, here she was, practically pushing me out the door because she felt threatened by the fact that people were showing excitement over the baby. Feeling overwhelmed by what had just happened with Mill and her friends, I turned around and decided I needed to find my husband, Nate, immediately. I spotted him across the room, chatting with some guests, and made my way over. When I reached him, I told him that Mill had made it clear she wanted me to leave, and he was just as surprised as I was. He asked if something had happened between us to trigger her behavior, and that's when I told him everything, how Mill had been making rude remarks about my appearance and how she tried to embarrass me in front of her friends but that it had backfired on her. Nate looked visibly pissed as I recounted the story. He immediately said he would go talk to her and sort it out. I didn't know what he and his mother discussed afterward, but he came back and told me that his mother was just in one of her moods and that I should not take it seriously. Apparently, she had let me stay for the rest of the party. I told my husband I wanted to leave as I was starting to get irritated with his mother's antics, but Nate urged me to stay for just an hour longer and promised to then drive me back home. I foolishly agreed. A little while later, as I was trying to enjoy the rest of the event with Robin, Mill approached me again, this time holding a plate of cake. She looked a bit more subdued than before. To my surprise, she told me that she felt terrible about the way she had spoken to me earlier and explained that she had a few too many drinks that had apparently affected her judgment. She offered me the cake as a peace offering, saying it was her way of letting go of the tension between us. I just politely smiled, thanked her, and took a bite of the cake. Initially, I didn't find anything wrong with the cake, but after a few minutes, a strange sensation crept in. It started subtly, just a bit of discomfort, but then quickly escalated. I began to feel like my throat was tightening, almost like it was slowly closing up, and I was struggling to catch my breath. At first, I thought maybe I had swallowed something wrong, so I instinctively put the plate down and began thumping my chest, trying to clear whatever I thought might be stuck. Robin looked concerned as well. The feeling kept getting worse, and before I knew it, I was out of my chair, gasping for air, panicking as it became harder and harder to breathe. Robin was shouting next to me, asking me what was wrong. I was on my knees, clutching my stomach in fear. All I could think about was my baby. I was terrified not just for myself but for my unborn child. I didn't care what happened to me, I just needed my baby to be okay. In the blur of panic, I saw Nate rushing toward me, his face filled with fear, but everything after that became hazy. When I woke up next, I was in a hospital bed. I felt confused about everything and saw Nate sitting beside me. He looked so relieved to see me awake, but there was something else in his expression: guilt. I have been with him for a long time, so I could sense it right away, even before I asked him what had happened. He told me how I had fainted and he had rushed me over to the hospital. He assured me that the baby and I were going to be okay. He didn't mention anything more than this. Later, when the doctor came to speak to me, I began to piece together what had actually happened. The doctor explained that I had likely been poisoned, which triggered my body to react this way. Poisoned? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. The doctor asked me what I had eaten before the incident, and that's when I remembered the cake Mill had given me. I told the doctor about it, and he informed me that the cake might have contained soy, a food I am severely allergic to. I was shocked. Everyone in my husband's family knows about my allergy to soy. Hence, I am pretty sure that the cake at Mill's party did not have soy, since I had eaten a piece of the cake earlier, even before Mill had offered it to me. But now, the doctor was saying that the cake likely contained soy, and that's what triggered the severe allergic reaction. I was taken aback, confused, and, honestly, scared. How could this have happened? I turned to look at my husband, Nate, who had been quiet throughout all this. The doctor excused himself, allowing us some privacy, and I took that opportunity to ask the question that had been nagging at me since I woke up. Did the cake really have soy in it? I pressed, needing to know for sure. Nate hesitated, his eyes darting away from mine as if he was reluctant to answer. I could sense that he was holding back, so I pushed him to open up. Please, just tell me the truth, I urged. After a moment of silence, he finally confessed. When he saw me collapse, he rushed to find out what had happened and learned from the guest that Mill had been the one who had given me the cake I was eating. His voice trembled slightly as he recounted the confrontation he had with her. When he confronted his mother about it, she tearfully admitted that she had added just a few drops of soy milk into the cake before giving it to me. The reason? She wanted me to feel a bit unwell so that I would just go home and the guests would stop talking about me and my baby at her party. My stomach dropped at the realization that she had intentionally put me in harm's way just to get me away from her stupid birthday party. The sheer malice behind her actions left me speechless, and I felt an overwhelming surge of anger. My emotions boiled over, and I threatened to file a case against his mother for poisoning me, and for putting me in a life or death situation where I could have potentially lost my child. I felt justified in my anger. However, Nate argued with me to not go through with it. He told me that while he understood that what his mother did was wrong, he didn't want her arrested. Even now, as I am writing this, he keeps saying, "You have to think this through before taking such a drastic step and reporting my mom." His words feel like a slap in the face, and I am struggling to comprehend how he could possibly defend her actions in any way. He insists that this is a family matter and we should resolve it without involving the police. Ida for wanting to report my Mill after what she has done to me? Update 1. It's been 2 days since my last update. After everything that had happened, my parents, who live in another city, decided to fly in to stay with me while I could recover at home. They were understandably upset and very concerned after hearing about the incident. The moment they found out the details, they wanted me to go straight to the police station and file a complaint against Mill, and that's exactly what we did. I feel relieved at finally taking some action. Later, when Nate found out what we had done, he completely lost his mind. It was as if a switch flipped in him, and he started telling me and my parents how we shouldn't have taken such a drastic step without talking to him first. He insisted that his mother didn't have any ill intentions toward me and began reminding me of all the times Mill had supposedly helped me, which felt utterly ridiculous given that she hardly ever came to visit or had offered any real support during my pregnancy. My mother, who had been trying to stay calm, told him firmly that as my husband, he needed to grow a spine and stand up for me and our baby instead of catering to his mother and trying to protect her when what she did to me was a crime. My dad also chimed in, saying, "Nate, your mother made the decision to poison my pregnant daughter. Instead of standing here arguing about your crazy family, you should be more worried about your wife and your unborn child. What if your wife had lost her life? All because your mother felt threatened by people talking about your wife's pregnancy? If that were the case, then why did your mother even invite her in the first place?" Her words struck home, and I could see how embarrassed Nate felt at the moment. He did try to argue further, but my parents weren't having it. They stood their ground, insisting that my health and the safety of our baby came first. I feel so grateful for my parents' support. I need my husband to understand now the seriousness of what has happened and to hopefully choose our family over his mother. This is no longer just about a birthday party gone wrong. It is about the safety and well-being of our growing family. What if tomorrow his mother harms our child because she is again jealous of us? What will we do then? Update 2. I forgot to add this earlier in my last update, but yes, Mill has called to apologize to me repeatedly since the incident. Each time, I have only ignored her. I am not ready to accept her apologies, especially not when they feel so insincere and forced. Meanwhile, Nate has been moping around the house, refusing to talk to me. He's expressed how I'm being a party pooper for making his mother feel bad and guilty after her multiple apologies. He told me I should strive to be a better Dill, by letting this matter slide for the sake of his family. It feels infuriating to hear my husband say that. He seems more concerned about his mother's feelings than my health and safety. I'm seriously considering leaving him. Update 3. It's been a month and a half since my last update. Thanks to everyone's suggestions. I have filed for divorce from my husband since our relationship just kept getting worse and worse. You see, after I filed my police complaint, my Mill was arrested, as the evidence against her was overwhelming. Multiple witnesses, including Robin, confirmed that she had been the one to give me the cake. While questioning, Mill also confessed to mixing soy into my cake so she could intentionally make me sick. As a result, she was charged with endangerment and intentionally causing bodily harm to both me and my baby. Ever since her arrest and eventual bail, Nate and my in-laws have continued to blame me for putting my poor Mill through such a hard time. Instead of rallying around me during such a traumatic experience, they are choosing to sympathize with the person who knowingly endangered my life and the life of our child. My husband's refusal to take my side has been particularly painful, so I believe divorcing him is the only option left. Hence, in light of all this, my parents and I made the difficult decision that I needed to return home with them, where I would feel much safer. There was no guarantee that his mother or his family wouldn't show up and cause me more trouble, especially given the volatile nature of the situation. However, when Nate found out about my plans to leave him and move back in with my parents, he became aggressive. He went on a rant about how I was ruining everything and that all I had to do was just keep my mouth shut and let the matter go so we could put this to rest. He accused me of making everything worse by taking his baby away from him when he was already losing his mother also. Update 4. To answer some of your questions, Nate has always had a short temper, similar to his mother. But since the incident, his anger has only intensified towards me. Currently, I am at my parents' home and feel much safer to be away from him. Phil has apologized to me for what his wife did, but just like Nate, he believes that I betrayed them by going to the police. He told me that I could have just talked things over with the family. Mill has always been self-centered, but she has never physically harmed me this way, so this is the first time that anything like this has happened, but I don't want to ever give her another chance. Since the incident, I have been struggling to even eat food because I can't shake the fear that someone might poison me again, even though my parents are always cautious and I trust them completely. The emotional toll this incident has taken on me is something my mother-in-law will never be able to repay. Update 5. I guess it's been a few months since my last update. I've given birth, and both my baby and I are doing well. The divorce with my ex-husband was quick, thanks to the prenup we had in place. He is still furious with me over what has happened to his mother and blames me entirely for her punishment. Other than child support, he made it clear that he wants nothing to do with our child. Hence, I've been granted full custody, and Nate has signed away all his parental rights. As for my ex-mother-in-law, she received an 8-month jail sentence and was ordered to pay a significant fine, along with covering all my medical expenses and therapy related to the incident. I have also got a restraining order against her, ensuring that she can never come near me or my baby again. I'm staying at my parents' house for now, where we're both secure and supported, and I feel a sense of relief knowing I can raise my child in a safe environment. I'll continue to live here until I can find a job and move out on my own.